Welcome, everybody. It is good to see 60 people on the call this morning, so thank you all for your time. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Cara, and I am the marketing manager at Petco. Welcome to all of you. Thank you in advance for your time, and we hope that you will walk away from this webinar learning something. We are interested to see which sector you represent. So please, would you just take 1 second to fill in the poll that Shane will launch now so that we can know who is on the call. It's always just interesting for us. Before we kick off, here are some ground rules for this morning's proceedings. You have all been muted by default and your cameras have been disengaged. We know that 80% of virtual meeting attendees regard flawless audio as a key requirement for holding successful meetings. While we have tested everything to ensure smooth transitions, gremlins are often known to creep in from time to time, and we ask for your patience and your grace should this happen. Now let's have a look at the agenda for the day. Today's session is short, but hopefully sweet. We have quite a lot to get through, so I'll kick us off with a short introduction to Petco. I will then hand over to Berenice Westmore from Postwink Recycling Products, who will speak to us about her business and why bin setup is so important in efficient collection systems, especially at work, but in other places too. We will then hear from Andy Conder from Clearer Conscience Environmental Services, who will take us through how important it is to educate staff, promoting employee engagement and understanding waste needs and challenges in the workplace. And we will then have a Q&A. And as Shane alluded to earlier, please insert your questions into the Q&A box and not into the chat. It just helps us to monitor all of the questions that have come through, and we will have a 15-minute Q&A. To start off, I will give you a bit of a background about who Petco is and what we do for those of you that don't know. Petco is what's called a producer responsibility organization, also known as a PRO. And a PRO is an organization that assumes the responsibilities of an obligated party as outlined in government regulations regarding the collection and recycling of products. So Petco was originally incorporated in 2004 by the PET producers, but we are now operating in a mandatory environment. We are a member-driven organization aimed at chiefly ensuring our members' compliance and going over and above that to meet their own individual targets. As such, we have recently broadened the range of EPR schemes offered by Petco to simplify the lives of our members. We now look after not only the PET bottle itself, including its caps and labels, but also liquid board packaging, also known as Tetra Pak or cartons, which can be seen on the right. So as mentioned, Petco is a PRO and membership-based, and I just want to take a second to say thank you to all of our members, because we wouldn't be able to do any of the work that we do without their dedication and commitment. So thank you to all of them. So what is a PRO and what should a PRO be doing? A PRO should essentially operate across the entire value chain with the aim of stimulating collection and recycling. This includes working with members to ensure that their packaging is designed in a manner that ensures that it can be recycled by the infrastructure that exists locally. Of course, a circular economy is the first prize. This includes right-weighting and using transparent labeling on products. We work to educate consumers so that they are motivated and empowered to actively participate in recycling by separating their recyclables from their municipal waste in their households and also places like work and at school. We work hand in hand with municipalities to support with communications and infrastructure that also enables separation at source. And critical to the success of the recycling value chain are the treasured informal collectors or waste pickers. The role of the PRO here is to improve their working conditions, livelihood opportunities, and recognize their service while offering equipment and training support. Also to support formal collection companies with equipment and training, working with the recycler to ensure that there is adequate demand for waste by developing the capacity of the recycler. And this includes the development of new markets for recycled goods. And specifically within the PET sector, it's about creating demand for rPET through end uses such as fiber, geotextiles, or most importantly, food-grade rPET, which can go right back into packaging, and with liquid board cartons working to create end-use markets like paper or building materials. So this is just an overview of some of the work that we've done. In 2022, Petco partnered with various stakeholders to support 104 projects and initiatives across South Africa with equipment and infrastructure. The beneficiaries included waste pickers, SMEs, and cooperatives. Through these interventions, in 2022, Petco unlocked 10,620 tons of post-consumer PET packaging across all 9 provinces, including more remote areas and main metropoles. Our buyback centre support has also contributed to sustaining 1,969 employment opportunities and 14,930 waste picker livelihoods. An important part of the work that we do is training, mentorship, and sponsorship of equipment and infrastructure for the informal sector so that they can move up the value chain, grow their businesses, and create further employment while cleaning the environment. And as you can see here, these are some examples of people at training. It's a trailer that we've sponsored, trolleys that we've sponsored, signage that we've sponsored, and one of the most recent projects was bins to a school and setting up a recycling station. And last but not least, Petco carries out consumer education and awareness initiatives. Here are a few. We have created educational content for grade 1 to 7 so far in partnership with the Pick and Pay Schools Club. And we will continue the development of content for all grades over the next 2 years. This content has been delivered to 500 schools in 4 provinces in South Africa, and all of the content is CAPS aligned and freely available. So if anybody would like this content, please feel free to reach out to me after the session. We also create consumer campaigns with specific messaging about collecting and recycling that is then distributed through a large range of media, such as billboards and radio stations. Our WhatsApp for Business platform is a menu-based automated system that allows both collectors and consumers to select menu items to receive the information that they want in a quick, efficient, and data-sensitive manner. And our latest project is a 9-episode docu-series, which is entitled Sorted, that follows the life of a consumer or the journey of a consumer around the country to see what is really happening behind the scenes in the collection and recycling industry in South Africa. You can find this on our YouTube channel, and we recommend you to go and watch it. So that's just a short overview of what we do, and yeah, really excited to see that there are 100 people on the call at the moment, so thank you for coming. And without further ado, I'm going to hand over to Berenice to take us through her presentation. Thank you so much, Berenice.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Berenice Westmore, and I'm from Postwink Recycling Solutions. And my job here today is first to thank Petco for inviting me to actually do this short presentation, and then to also give you a little bit of an idea in terms of who Postwink is and the kind of products that we have been testing in the South African market over the last 16 years. Postwink, that's a little bit what I'm going to talk about. I'm going to talk about who we are, the kind of industry trends that have impacted waste separation specifically, and then we're going to look very quickly onto our products and services per client type. My presentation, you will notice, is actually very visual, and I've got a lot of photos just to kind of give you an idea of what people are doing out there in terms of waste separation. Okay, and just to keep you also watching till the end, we've got a little surprise or a little gift for you right at the end. Okay, so with our recycling and composting bins, we actually, Postwink helps companies separate their waste at source. Why do we actually do this? Because we've actually found that people come to Postwink when they want to start a recycling project. The first thing that they think of is, okay, I want bins. How do I do this? What are they going to look like, etc. So we also felt we wanted to actually be niche and focus on waste separation, because once that waste is actually separated properly, it reduces contamination, it results in cleaner recyclables, cleaner food waste for composting, and essentially it will end up resulting in better recycling rates. The majority of our clients are mainly corporates and smaller offices, as well as universities, private schools, municipalities, and also waste management companies. Okay. I wanted to give you a little bit of background. So Postwink started actually in 2007 when we had the distribution to bring in and import these European-style recycling bins. Originally, the company was called Titan Eco. However, when we realized that the European model didn't actually suit the South African model because of our lack of, or prevalence really, of the trucks that were necessary to empty these huge recycling bins. However, having brought some of the units over here, we also were approached by Woolworths and Engine at the time in 2010, who wanted to do a forecourt initiative where they wanted these igloos to be sitting at forecourts to be able to start collecting recyclables. However, they also wanted, just any of the small collectors to be able to actually empty these. This is also why the big igloo then ended up becoming a South African version, like you see there on the right-hand side, which we still call the recycling igloo to this day. And over the last few years, we've developed that recycling igloo. Obviously, it comes in different colors and branding, etc. But we've also now converted into kind of a giant composting igloo, like a big garden composter. So you can actually put your garden waste and food waste to actually compost on site, or it can be used to actually collect other recyclables like e-waste. Another one of our products, it started quite earlier on. One of our first clients was TFG, the Foschini Group. When we started with them having these little bins at the canteen to start collecting the cans that they were generating at the canteen, and they would actually recycle this. Now I'm talking back, this is like 2008, in the event where recycling wasn't even quite wasn't prevalent at all in that at that time. So they really are pioneers in recycling in South Africa. And then over time, we've developed that simple unit, which is made locally in Cape Town, into a variety of similar products, which we still call the Eco Cylinder, and it comes in 2 or 3 compartments. We've got a, one which is also separates into different variety for coffee cup recycling, and I'm going to touch on that in a bit as well. Okay, just to give you a little bit of an idea, kind of over time, the product range obviously increased quite a bit, as you can see from here. To give you a little bit of a more formal introduction, what does Postwink do? So we're using quality products and outstanding service. We strive to ensure that our clients recycle the most effectively that they can, hence making a difference to the environment while helping our clients, stakeholders understand and appreciate sustainability thinking, whether in South Africa or beyond our borders. We do deliveries to Namibia, to Botswana, Swaziland. So kind of when I say beyond our borders, I mean kind of close by, because like I mentioned, we believe that better waste separation actually reduces contamination, and essentially it will it will improve on your recycling rates. Okay, there's just a little image in terms of the the clients that support us, and these are kind of Postwink recycling colors that we adopted really early on the basis of the German model, because at the time Germany was has been one of the major kind of recycling society, if I can call it that, from early on, and therefore we kind of married a lot of the colors to what they were using also at the time. And we've kind of stuck to the colors and normally encourage our clients and customers to adhere to these colors as much as possible, just to kind of create some kind of consistency across the industry. Okay, I'm going to talk a little bit about waste separation in terms of what it means. We've definitely seen, and I think most people on the call will also think of waste separation as being the recyclables of paper, plastics, glass, and the metals, and keeping the mix kind of contaminated waste for landfills. And then, as I'm going to mention again now as well, there is definitely a growing trend to also keep the organics separate, so that can be composted. And then, of course, e-waste, growing, very important waste stream as well. Okay, in terms of all of the waste streams, all, that kind of that we see, we've got the ones that I've just mentioned, but we also tend to find that a lot of our clients also are looking for containers to keep the confidential papers separate, the garden waste, medical waste, for some of the clients, hazardous waste, which include also the CFL bulbs and batteries, which are also recycled, textile waste, or, such as the clothing bank, and also donation bins. Increasingly, we've also been focused quite a bit into actually providing speciality bins also for coffee cup recycling, and then cartridges. Coffee cups, especially with regards to be keeping these separate from the normal recyclables. And the reason for that is because, with all of the liquids left over in a coffee cup, it would actually contaminate the rest of the recycling, hence the separation. And of course, I mentioned that but these are obviously not common at all in terms of our general clients. That would be construction and demolition waste, nuclear and wastewater. That's not something that Postwink normally deals with. So originally, when someone had when I say someone, I'm talking about an office, they would think that they wanted to start recycling. So they would come to us and say, okay, we want to start recycling. We want a recycling station. This is what it must look like. So we want the tin cans, the paper, the plastics, and the glass kept separate. So to this day, it does still happen. A lot of the schools still actually enjoy and like to actually have that kind of waste separation, so that the kids also get to learn. And this also, in instances, the staff get to learn the different theseparation that, in more detail. However, we also find that a lot of offices also want to keep food waste separate, and there's not enough space to actually have such huge units in every corner. So in the last few years, we found that the original kind of, 5-bin system has been a little bit more streamlined, so that it becomes more of a kind of a 2-division or a 3-division type recycling. So the two waste division would be obviously kind of wet and dry. It makes the communication a little bit easier, especially for employees that don't actually know anything or too much about recycling. It's just much easier to communicate to them, saying, okay, the dry stuff goes into the green area, and then your contaminated stuff goes into the general waste area. So we definitely saw a trend on that. It obviously saves a lot of space, and it also just encourages people, when they get to the bin, that they can actually see 2 very distinct holes and divisions. And that definitely helps in terms of making sure that the dry recyclables actually remain dry. And more closely, closer to the Western Cape, where there is a landfill ban for organics starting officially from 2027, there's also a growing movement to try to actually keep the food waste completely separate, even from the general waste, because we are trying to actually trying to educate the stakeholders and the staff to keep clean food waste separately can actually mean that it will get composted in the, once it's actually removed or collected by your collectors. So we have got the more common or becoming more common separation would be your dry recyclables, a lot of the times without the paper, so that a lot of the paper would kind of be kept separately, especially if you a bank or if you've got a lot of confidential paper. Then you would have your food waste, and we kind of call it kind of compostables or for composting or food scraps, something like that. And then the contaminated waste, sweet wrappers, chip packets, the kind of things that are definitely not recyclables or not being recycled, that I would actually go into kind of the more landfill general waste section. On that note, we've also seen, at the beginning, people would kind of go, these are the different recyclables, paper, plastic, etc., and they would say general waste afterwards. But we've also seen that now, with more and more companies trying to actually having targets of zero waste to landfill, they are also kind of trying to show that, that section should be really small. And that section is not just general, it actually is going to land up at landfill. So therefore, they are calling it landfill in terms of, to kind of hit home a little bit in terms of what you put in that general waste bin, general waste compartment. As I just mentioned a little bit earlier, there is definitely a growing also trend in terms of coffee bins. Like I said, the coffee bins has got not so much to do with the fact that most companies have got specific coffee stations and kitchens, or there's been a huge growing affinity for coffee, coffee expertise and coffee drinking at offices. But also because they wanted to actually try to keep the recyclables completely dry and non-contaminated. And at the same time, once you've actually done away with your leftover liquid, your cups and your lids can actually then be as dry as possible and used for recycling. Another of the waste types, some of the bins that have been used there for the likes of hazardous waste, which are like batteries, I guess, in an office environment, or the small e-waste that would actually go into normally the back of house, and the likes of the eco cylinders would obviously be very useful. You also will find a lot of the or most of the Woolworths stores, for example, would have those kind of bins as well. Okay, then in an office building, the food scrap for composting is definitely a doable solution. I think, about 8 years ago, people would the offices and the facilities managers used to get a little bit nervous about having to collect food waste for composting on their premises, just from the yuck factor. But because of, we are going to be mandated to actually do so in the Western Cape, but also as a growing trend of actually in terms of soil health and composting and, actually just being more conscious consumers and conscious human beings, we are wanting to actually try to keep the food waste separate, to actually educate the staff that it can be, clean food waste can be composted. And you'll see there a few of the different equipment and items that you can use to actually compost, especially even at a not just at a home level, but also in an office level. You'll see there at the bottom left, this image, the person is actually using bokashi to actually put in the drum and with the food waste, and then afterwards you put an airtight lid on there, and then you can actually then store your food waste for quite some time without creating any smells whatsoever, and the composting process actually already starts within that drum. Over COVID, we had obviously a little bit more, it was a little bit more prevalent when Post-Twink actually provided a lot of these kind of bins. But most when it comes to kind of medical waste bins, that kind of thing, it's not something that we specialize in. So we would normally have a lot of these kind of PPE bins, more to kind of collect, the gloves, the masks, hair nets, that kind of things. But when it comes to obviously medical waste and something a bit more biohazard, you would normally kind of speak to your waste management company. Okay. Just to kind of go very quickly in terms of my slides, the slides that I'm going to show you are lots of images, and I'm going to focus mainly on on the workplace in terms of examples of what people are doing in the workplace in terms of waste separation. I'm going to touch a tiny little bit in terms of what the schools are doing, and a little bit on the homes. But the way that a hotel or industry actually do separate the waste is a little bit different, in terms of the hotel, how they actually separate the waste front of house will be completely different in terms of what they do back of house. So just keep that in mind while I'm busy going through the slides. So what we've noticed in terms of our own corporate and office clients are separating. Like I've mentioned, they mainly do mixed recyclables and the general waste or the landfill waste, wet and dry separately, putting the organics waste separately now, especially where it comes at source. So for example, let's say in a small kitchen area, you'd have maybe a counter bin where they can put the food scraps immediately into the bin, so it doesn't actually contaminate the rest of the bin. The confidential paper bin, yes, that's a special service in terms of disposal with the waste management companies, but that is something that we do quite a bit of. It's obviously a huge necessity. We've also mentioned, I also wanted to mention there that over the last few years, corporates and offices are definitely doing away with the little bins by the desks. We find that otherwise people actually are not, the employees are not getting up to make use of the recycling stations. So, and it's not healthy for them to be sitting actually at the desk and just throw everything just in the little bin. So more and more of the corporates would actually be taking away all of the small bins that are next to desks and encourage the staff, even in in a very big open space environment, they would actually encourage the staff to get up and actually walk to the recycling station. But ultimately, before you also see all this, inspirational photos I'm about to show you, please do check the kind of separation and the kind of brand that you would like to put on your bins. That should actually be checked with your actual recycling, with your actual waste management company who does the management and of the recyclables and waste that's been collected. Okay, so these are kind of bins that we see quite a lot of in open offices and in corridors. As you can see, a very different type of branding that is needed by the printers into the kitchen. So for example, with a lot of companies, I've got very tiny little kitchens. So maybe something inside, the cupboards, maybe something including a big label on the outside. Again, I also mentioned the small bins on the counters also tend to work for food scraps. You'll see a few there in terms of the pause areas, including the outside, back of house and storing of recyclables. That can be done, of course, that's normally out of sight. Depending on where you are and, what kind of business you're in, you may want to actually also be, using can crushers to kind of, make best use of your space in the back. Then also we've also find that a lot of our clients also want to be able to actually train and educate and actually make the separation a little bit more visual. So a lot of the times, kind of these posters and signage and printing these kind of things and putting them on the fridges, that's something that we do a lot of. As one of our clients, which is CEPLA, when they started kind of relooking at their recycling initiatives in their offices, this is the kind of separation that they did. As you can see there, they did the coffee. They had a strong coffee culture in the office, so they wanted to keep the coffee grinds, etc., separate. Leftover liquids, the batteries and the e-waste that was, based in kind of a back area, and then kind of did recyclables and general waste as well in their offices. And another case study would kind of be Home Choice. You'll notice there at the bottom, those big drums would actually be placed inside the food preparation areas, because they have a canteen on site where food is actually prepared for the staff. So at the back, the kitchen staff would actually be trained to know they've put everything into the bins, and then from the bins into the drums. Okay, I just have a very quick slide there in terms of the schools. This is the kind of products that we've kind of been doing more and more at the schools.
Berenice,
it differs. Yes.
I'm so sorry to interrupt you, but I'm going to have to ask you to wrap up.
Yes,
You just want to do
it's
your
literally
final
just
thing.
finished.
Perfect.
Yes.
Thank you so much.
And then just to kind of wrap up, I just wanted to end to actually show that so over the last couple of years, PostLink also started an online store mainly more for the consumers, which is we called Wewo. which stands for Waste to Worth. And we've got also, because of course now I talk a lot in terms of what the products are used for the workspace, but there are also a lot of small products and more home-friendly products that can actually be purchased directly from Wewo. And for the purpose of people on the call, I just wanted to actually give everyone a little bit of a gift. So now if you actually go onto wewo.coza, and if you're, as long as you're based in South Africa, or you've got a delivery address in South Africa, you can use the discount code there, PTCO15, so you can get a 15% discount on anything that you buy on Wewo. And here are my contact details, or the office's contact details, if you have any queries.
Perfect. Thank you, Berenice. That was super
you.
Informative, and sorry to have rushed.
No worries. I can rattle on. Yeah, no, sorry.
Yeah, I know it's a passion thing. We can all talk about it for a long time. But yeah, without further ado, I'd like to please ask Andy to come to the stage for his presentation.
Hi there. Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for all attending, and also huge thanks to Petco for facilitating. Berenice, always lovely to see the products that you have available. We have a history of using Berenice's products. A lot of clients really love them. They have a fantastic warehouse, well worth checking out the products that they have. So I'm going to go through a presentation now about the actual waste collection side of things. I founded Clearer Conscience Environmental Services in 2008. It was a call to action, really. There were a few of us at a dinner party, and at the end of it, there were a few empty bottles, glass bottles, and we got around to talking about why it was that we couldn't recycle these. Back in 2008, there were the municipality down here in Cape Town was not really offering collections in many areas. So we looked into what we could do about it, and that's how Clearer Conscience Environmental Services was born. If you'd like to find out a bit about what we do on the socials, you can check the hashtag Together Helping the Planet, as well as our direct profiles. So I'm just going to tell you a little bit about our background, and then move on to how to encourage a culture of sustainability in the workplace. Something about educating staff, we'll follow that. Promoting employee engagement. Understanding what the waste needs are and what the challenges are in a work environment. And best practice of how to start recycling as well. And then we're going to look at some case studies. So as I mentioned, 2008 is when Clearer Conscience Environmental Services was founded. It was due to a lack of recycling services in Cape Town. Since then, there have been collections arranged in more areas, although there's still a long way to go. We started with one vehicle, that was a 1-ton bucky, offering residential recycling collections. And since then, we've expanded our services. And we've now got 5 vehicles from 1 ton up to 4 tons. We've also added organic waste to our services as well. Our trucks are clearly marked, so anybody that we service knows it's us coming to collect from them. All the staff are in uniforms. That's for safety as well as recognition as well. So how does one go about encouraging a culture of sustainability in the workplace? It's very important to lead by example. If you want people to get involved with something, show them how to do it. Lead by example. Show that you believe what you're doing and that you're doing it yourself. Business leaders, that can be CEOs of companies, to departmental heads, to team leaders. They need to show that they're committed and that they're becoming more sustainable. That way the message comes across a lot more clearly to employees that this is something that needs to be taken seriously. Employees can be rewarded for recycling as well. What kind of rewards are we talking about? Well, it doesn't necessarily need to be cash rewards, but things like certificates, inclusion in newsletters, just something which raises awareness about what it is the employees are doing. Because the more we see people doing something, the more we're likely to do it ourselves as well. Something we found is almost vital, really, is to have a recycling champion in any office. Somebody that, it's their pet project. They don't have to run the whole things, the whole thing themselves, but certainly they need to have some interest to, be able to oversee the project to some degree. They don't, as I say, they don't have to do everything about it themselves, but certainly somebody to drive, even, for example, a point of contact to deal with companies such as Postwink regarding what the appropriate bins would be, or services such as us, Clearer Conscience Environmental Services, to make sure that any company is getting the correct service that they need. That's the correct frequency, the right loads, finding out if there's something else that can be recycled that's not currently being recycled by the office. How is it best to educate staff about proper waste disposal? Well, like with many things, it's best to keep it short and sweet. Communication is most effective when it's to the point and it's direct. Visual aids are good, absolutely. Infographics, but don't make them too complex. Berenice was talking earlier on about bins and labels being in a range of colors, and yes, those are very effective. Those are certainly very visually striking and can draw people towards them. Also, with regards to communication, do it in person. Have team meetings, have company meetings. Newsletters are all well and good, and company reports and circulars and things like that, but not everybody reads them. So if you actually do it in person in a session, try to make it fun, try to have some activity in there as well. Then there's going to be the risk of incorrect information being shared is lessened. In terms of actually promoting employee engagement, getting more people to recycle, you need to be able to motivate and encourage employees to recycle in the office. There are very simple ways to recycle. It doesn't need to be difficult. It can be a one bin mixed recyclable service that people decide. Very good if there's not a lot of extra space in an office. Or we can go for a collection of different bins with different colors. It's very good to have posters up, to have photos or pictures or infographics up so that people, just with a simple glance, with a single glance, can see what it is that goes into those bins. Also, it's good to share some of the outcomes as well, and we'll come on to that in a couple of slides. It's a good idea to set goals. That can be in terms of number of bottles or weight of containers, anything like that. That way, people are more likely to try and increase on the amount of recycling that is achieved each month. So now let's just look at some of the needs and challenges for recycling in a workspace. This is something that a good waste management company can help you with, rather than just leaving it up to staff internally to find out. Very important to identify what materials are generated by staff members. We have office environments where we collect absolutely no glass whatsoever. And we have restaurants and bars and hotels where we collect a lot of glass. Some places need collections of certain items. Some places don't use those items whatsoever. These things are identified by a needs analysis right at the very beginning, which a good waste management company can assist you with. It's very important that there are designated bins for the materials in communal areas. It used to be the case that a lot of people had small bins by the desk. Berenice mentioned this as well. That trend has moved away now. It seems to be getting people sort of more invested in actually in recycling. It makes them think a bit more if they have to walk to the corner of the office to put the material in the correct bin. Also very important to schedule a collection service, something that's suitable for you. We have clients that we service once every week in an office environment. We also have clients that we service every day. And when I say every day, I'm talking 7 days a week, not just Monday to Friday, because there are places that are operational 7 days a week. Just a note about the waste management service. Do try and make sure it's accredited by the local municipality or whatever accreditation body there is, just so that you know that the waste management company you're dealing with is a legitimate operation, that they've actually proven to the authorities that they handle the material in a responsible manner and are not an operation that appears one day and then disappears a few days later. What are some of the challenges? Well, space for designated bins is a big challenge. Berenice touched on that. When Clearer Conscience Environmental Services started, we were looking at getting everybody to separate. So paper in one bin, glass in another bin, plastics in another bin, and metals in another bin. And really, that's the ideal situation. That's what you want people to achieve. It's educational. And people start thinking about recycling a bit more at that stage. But spaces are constrained. So we have a service now where people can put all of their recyclables in one bin and we'll do the separation and the sorting for you. Another challenge that workplaces find is there's some places that have a lot of single-use material in the workplace. A good waste management company will also have a solution for single-use materials as well. And if anybody would like to find out more about that, then please feel free to get in touch with me after this presentation has ended. What do we mean by single-use materials? Takeaway containers, clamshell packaging. As you can see in some of the pictures there down there, you know, the packaging there is generally quite widely recycled, but there's a lot of films and things like that aren't. But yes, a good waste management company will be able to assist. In terms of sharing the information, these are the kind of figures that we can provide clients with. These reports are generated monthly. They show all the collections that have happened during the course of each month, and we'll provide the weight of each type of material that we've collected. And not only that, we'll also convert that weight into the total of carbon dioxide that has been prevented from becoming greenhouse gas. It's quite a big process to figure all that out. We actually employed 2 auditing companies to work to international standards to make sure that our figures are as up to date and credible as they can be. So there's been a lot of comparison that's gone on there. Just an interesting note on the side here, organic, so food waste. The amount of carbon dioxide produced by food waste is about 10 times that of the recycling, the more common forms of recycling, plastic, paper, cardboard, glass, metal. So really, it's very important that food waste, organic waste, does get recycled. Okay, just some case studies I'll run through quickly. STBB, a law firm. First of all, we had to go in there and assess what their waste requirements were, what was being generated in the office. in their case, there was a lot of documentation, a lot of confidential documentation, which needed to be shredded and then recycled as well. There's also food waste from the canteens and, just general office material as well. So once a company's got its waste requirements in place, it needs to appoint a waste management company. Then we can help consult on a waste system in the office. So a company like Berenice will come in to assist us as well, using the appropriate bins. Then we schedule in regular collections, making sure that areas are kept clean at all times. And then finally, the reporting. Every month, a report is provided. And these reports can be shared internally as company information or externally as well with stakeholders. If we move on to Cambridge University Press, they started with us early 2022 and wanted their recycling collected on a weekly basis. So we started off collecting their plastic, glass, paper, cans, food waste, and sometimes e-waste from them as well. So far, they've saved 4,600 kilograms of carbon dioxide. That's 4.6 tons of carbon dioxide by diverting the various materials from landfill to enable it to be recycled. Finally, Dentsu, an advertising agency. They specialize in brand and business development, and sustainability is something that is very important to them. However, they didn't know where to start. So they asked Clearer Conscience to help their sustainability approach and set up an effective waste management system. If we look on the bottom left there, that's the bins that they went for. And advertising agency, it's very stylish, it's very slick. So these kind of bins, which clearly marked, they look fantastic. It was perfect for them. So far, Dentsu have saved 817 kilograms of carbon dioxide from entering the atmosphere. So almost 1 ton. And they like sharing this information internally and externally. If you'd like to get in touch with Clearer Conscience Environmental Services to find out any more about how we can assist you, or if you have any general questions, those are our contact details, info@clearer.co.za. There's also the office phone and the WhatsApp number. But feel free to check out our website as well, clearer.co.za. And we are there on the socials. As I mentioned, we have a hashtag, Together Helping the Planet, if you'd like to follow us and see what we're doing. So thank you very much for the opportunity to present. I'll hand back over to Cara.
Pleasure. Thank you so much, Andy. That was so informative and useful. So we are a little bit behind on time. I'm going to run the Q&A. So there are a few questions in the chat, which I'm going to go through. Please feel free to put any more in there. The first question here is about recycling of synthetic rubber. Andy, do you know anything about tire or rubber recycling?
There are various ways of doing it. It just depends exactly what it is, what condition it is, and also where it needs to come from as well.
Okay.
There
Perfect.
are, but one of the interesting things actually about the recycling industry is there are new there are new initiatives coming into play all the time. There's people with new inventions, there's new ideas coming, sometimes local, sometimes from overseas. So to really be ahead of the game is quite something. You need somebody in an organization that's following these new developments all the time.
Yeah, it changes all the time. It's a challenge that we have as well. You give someone information one day and it changes the next day. Okay, cool. Then someone said, we have a huge paper towel waste issue at our office. Is this material recyclable or compostable?
compostable.
It is, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, even if it's dirty.
If it's dirty, yes, absolutely. It can't be recycled if it's dirty because if anything like blood, etc., gets onto there, it can't be recycled, but it can be composted.
Okay, cool. So, Andile, there's the answer to your question. Then someone said, this webinar is very informative with regards to separation and recycling of waste. My concern is more focused on, is waste actually being recycled and reused? What does the actual waste life cycle look like in South Africa? Where does our recycled waste end up? Andy, do you want to take that one?
Yeah, this is a commonly asked question.
Yeah.
Look, there are countries in the world that recycle more products than are currently recycled in South Africa. There are a wide variety of processors in South Africa. There could be more for each of the product and for each type of material as well. So there is still quite a lot of material that does get sent overseas. I think if you'd asked me this question 15 years ago, my answer would have been very different to what it is today. 15 years ago, there were quite a few people that were out, shall we say, pretending to recycle. Now, with accreditation through various municipalities, some of those operations are no longer available, are no longer able to collect. The City of Cape Town has brought in a solid waste law enforcement unit as well to make sure that people are doing what they say they should be doing. And, there are really positive moves down here. So certainly in the areas that Clearer Conscience Environmental Services and the other services in Cape Town, the other accredited services in Cape Town operate, yes, it is recycled. But this is why I said in my presentation, it's very important to make sure that you're dealing with somebody that is accredited. So, you have the confidence that they're doing what they say they're going to do with it.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
Cara, can I make a comment on that as well?
Please.
Yeah, it's with regards to the actual, I definitely found I've been in offices where they've got lots of different waste separation for the different recyclables. And then they would be horrified that the cleaning person would put all the recyclables together and then move that away, dispose of it like that. And then they would immediately assume that, oh my gosh, they're not recycling. When actually, the cleaning team often would actually just take that to the back area and then it gets resorted. So it would get recycled. It's just for some reason, a lot of office employees would assume that the way they've put it in the bin is perfect. It must get recycled as is, but that's not the case. It still needs to get sorted afterwards. So I do think a lot of people are quite suspicious when they see something like that. But from what I've seen, and I do a lot of site visits, it does get recycled. Yeah.
Can I just add something to that as well? That, there are sorting facilities out there. Clearer Conscience Environmental Services has seen its packages for mixed recycling increase quicker than for separated recycling. And, ideally everybody would be separating at source, so in their office, but it comes down to space. That's why we've had to find people to actually sort and separate this stuff after it's been picked up. There's always an element in there that perhaps there's some stuff in there that isn't recyclable, but we've trained people to be experts in what is recyclable and what's not recyclable. So even if you have any issues at the office, we'll make sure it goes to the right place. And the mixed service does take up less space in your office as well.
Okay. Thank you so much. There was also a question here from someone called Bianca who was asking about how to engage with informal collectors that are based next to the business. And Andy, we suspected that there would be a question about this. What is the best way to assist them or to engage with informal recyclers in the best way for the environment? Do you have any inputs on that if someone is not wanting to use kind of a formalized company and rather work with waste pickers?
Absolutely. Well, we thought there was a question coming up, and Cara, I'm sure you can say something about it as well, because
Yeah.
Petco have a very good initiative about this.
Yeah. So do you want to go first, and then I'll add?
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
So certainly a lot of the waste management companies in Cape Town, where we're based, have engaged with waste pickers, going around the various suburbs and in the townships as well. We've tried to set up various initiatives. It's estimated there's about 90,000 waste pickers in South Africa in total, and they can be a very valuable resource. So we're always keen to get involved with them, and if waste pickers are keen to be involved with us as well, then that's certainly something that we can look at. There are opportunities for funding from NGOs to start up initiatives. But the thing about recycling is, it's all very well collecting the stuff. You've got to figure out what you're going to do with it, once it has been collected. And that's where, Cara, perhaps you're better to talk a bit further about this. Once it's actually all collected, where are you going to take it? How are you going to take it there? That's the thing. Collecting is easy. It's the distribution afterwards, which can be a bit more difficult.
Yeah, exactly. It's the logistics, and that's what so many informal waste pickers have to deal with, is actually getting the stuff from one place to another. And people often say, widespread across South Africa, is this material actually recycled? And it might be, for example, in Joburg, if you're speaking about PET, for example, it may be in Joburg very widely recycled because the actual recycling plants are there. Whereas if you're looking at Northwest, for example, you would have to have a buyback center there that would be able to actually take those materials to actually get processed at that recycling plant. So it's very, very complex, and we are well aware that the challenges with transport are one of the biggest that are faced by the industry. But just to go back to the question about working with waste pickers, please reach out to us. We have, I'm not sure where you're based, Bianca, but we have lots of waste picker projects that we've facilitated, working with waste pickers and getting them to do collections, especially at estates, and working with the waste picker groups that are already established in certain areas. So please reach out to us at info@petco.co.za. Then someone speaks about, someone was asking if you have any offices in Joburg, Berenice, or where are you based, or do you send your things all over the country?
Yeah, so we've got an office at the moment only in Cape Town, but some of the items, we've got a warehouse or a small DC up in Johannesburg. But we nationally deliver. Yeah, but at the office at the moment is in Cape Town.
Perfect. Then someone was asking about, every plastic bottle or container has a number at the bottom of the bottle or container. Which of those are food grade bottles or containers? So to speak about those little numbers that are at the bottom of all plastics, those are called polymer identification codes. Polymer is a fancy word for plastic, and that just literally is identifying the type of material, the type of plastic that item is made out of. That little number does not necessarily, it's not saying to you this is recyclable. It's literally just identifying what that material, what that product is made out of. So the next step is then for you to speak to your collection service and say, hey, I've got a lot of plastics that have a little number 1 at the bottom or a little number 2 at the bottom. Is that something that you want? Is that something that you collect? And so it's kind of a 2-step approach of understanding what that product is made of, and then if that product is actually collected or desired by the person that you are giving it to. So Anthony, I hope that answers your question. And then you also speak about eco bricks. And when you are speaking about eco bricks, as Petco, we don't actually outright encourage eco bricks, because we rather encourage the recycling of specifically clear and light blue bottles, because they are more valuable like that. The challenge with eco bricks is also that there are only a few projects that are actually taking them and doing something with them. There was a big phase that people were very excited about it a few years ago, lots of projects and lots of collections. And we agree that, small chip chip wrappers and chip packets and chocolate wrappers, unfortunately, are not recyclable. And so it seems like that's a really good place for them to be. But at the end of the day, you're actually contaminating quite a valuable bottle. So unless you can find a really reputable project that is actually taking them, we recommend that you put them in green or brown bottles. Andy, I don't know if you want to weigh in here, but yeah, as Petco, we don't really recommend it. Not we don't recommend eco bricks.
Yeah, I think we'd agree with Cara there. Actually, we did a pilot project a few years ago regarding eco bricks, and if you're using clear PET bottles, which are the most prominent, you're wasting that PET. A lot of the eco bricks are going into landscape projects and things like that. So they get buried underground. They're very popular for that, but it's very difficult to make an eco brick to the right consistency that's needed. The companies that specialize in them, they need them filled very, very tightly. So literally somebody has to be there with a little stick shoving it into the bottle. And if the mass isn't great enough, they will not take that eco brick. So it's quite time consuming. I think theoretically it's a good way to be using single-use plastics and film and things like that. But there are other initiatives as well. It's not the only one. And some of those other initiatives provide products which are better. They're heat resistant. They have far greater longevity. They don't have any kind of degradation to them whatsoever. So I think eco bricks, maybe in areas and places where they don't have other solutions, can be regarded as a way forward, but ideally maybe in some of the coloured PET bottles rather than the clear. But technology has caught up, and there are better uses for the single-use plastics, which were the mainstay of eco bricks for a long time.
Perfect. Thank you so much. So I'm going to wrap up now, just because it is 3 minutes post 11. I personally am happy to stay on the call. There are still a few more questions, and I personally would like to answer them. But Berenice and Andy, a quick thank you to you guys for your effort, your time, your passion. You're always willing to engage on this topic from a personal point of view, and just, it's just always been great to engage with both of you. And we really, really appreciate the time and effort that you put into being here and putting your presentations together. I know, everyone said how great the presentations were, and they got a lot of value out of them. And there's so many chats going on, and it just makes me feel like we really are helping and connecting and doing something good here. So I'm really glad we've been able to facilitate that conversation. So as I said, thank you to the speakers. Thank you to everyone who's attended. I am happy to stay on for a bit. Shane, are you okay for me to continue to stay on and take these questions that are here?
Absolutely, Cara, as long as you like.
Andy and Berenice, if you would like to stay on, you're more than welcome to. If you need to go, I know I said we were going to end at 11, so you're more than welcome to go or stay, but I'm going to keep having this chat with the people that want to have the chat, because I think it's important. But you are more than welcome to jump off. Andy, I think you had somewhere to be.
I do, yes. I'd very much like to stay on, absolutely. And perhaps I should put that into my schedule, another half hour at the end, if we do this again, Cara, which hopefully we will.
I should know better by now. It always happens, but...
Thank you very much for inviting Clear Conscience to be a part of this. And thank you, everybody, for tuning in, for logging in and following this. And if you have any questions for Clearer Conscience, please just email us, and the team will respond to you as soon as they can. Okay, thanks. Have a great day.
Cheers, Andy.
Thanks.
Thank you.
So I also just wanted to give a little shout out to Lina Duduzile Ndala, who is sitting with, she has organized a laptop, and she is sitting with 13 other people in her little office space. And I just wanted to encourage everyone else to also do that with these webinars. One person signs up, but there can be helpful information, and bring in your friends, bring in your other office mates, and keep sharing the information. I'm not sure if you're able to see this, but She's based in in Mpumalanga.
Oh no,
sorry,
we can't see. Sorry,
because of my background. But she's set up a whole little recycling point there, and she works for the government in Mpumalanga. So really inspiring to see that. And it actually looks like these bins have been made out of Tetra Pak, which is quite interesting. So thank you for being here, and thank you for sharing the info. To carry on just answering these questions. So we answered that one. Then someone is asking, Berenice, I'm not sure, are you very au fait with composting? Because someone's asked here how they can make compost of food waste. Are you able to input there? Abongile, I hope you're still on.
Yes, well, actually, it depends also if it's for their own private use, or if it's an office. So that's kind of be two different stories. But actually, on our Postwink website, there's an article there on composting 101 and how to start composting, because there's quite a few different ways of doing it, either using bokashi, worm farms, the garden composters, or a combination of all of it. So it might be actually, it's not an easy question just to do, to kind of reply without seeing the context.
Let me ask him or her. I'm not sure if it's Abongile. Would you mind? I'm going to ask you to unmute, and maybe you can just let us know what you were referring to, if it was at home or at the office. I see they're still on.
Hi, Kara. Can you hear me?
Hi. Yes, we can. Hi.
Morning.
Hi. Yeah. I was just wondering, in case maybe let's say now, since we were talking about the office space, so now maybe you want to use that that waste, or maybe in a restaurant. So how often do you how will you go about it to use it as a compost?
Okay, so in a restaurant, if it's in a restaurant environment, I know that, for example, the likes of Andy, for example, and there's a couple of composters, composting companies in Johannesburg and in Cape Town that actually collect from restaurants regularly, just to and then they compost it on site, off-site, because there is so much waste being generated by the restaurants. So when you've got at that level of kind of food waste generation, you almost can't do it on site. So often, maybe if it's like for a hotel, what they would do is then maybe put all the food waste in those drums, put bokashi, which is like it's got full of enzymes, and it actually starts the composting process within those drums. And then when you've got quite a few of drums, then those would then get taken to a space where it can get composted, either directly at a composter or a composting facility, or actually, if you are going to be, it depends on the volumes and on your space and your background. If you're going to be composting at a farm, you obviously do need to read up a little bit about it, on how to actually do it successfully using compost heaps, garden waste, etc. But yeah, at a restaurant, normally they would get collections done. I don't know if that helps at all.
It does help. Thank you so much.
Okay, pleasure.
Thanks, Abongile. Then there's a comment here about diapers. Diapers are an issue in plenty of informal settlements and illegal dump sites. What option is there? I'm not an expert on this topic. Do you know anything about that, Berenice?
So the one project that I'm aware of, and Hugh Tyrrell from Green Edge is actually busy with a pilot at the moment in one of the informal settlements in Cape Town to actually have actually offhand, I can't remember the details or the names, but I know it's in the pilot phase, and which pilot is actually ending quite soon. And they will be looking at expanding the project soon, actually. So I think if you can maybe just remember greenedge.co.za, and I know he hasn't quite updated the site yet with the pilot information, but I was in touch with him not so long ago, and he is looking at actually kind of publicizing a little bit the project. He's also on LinkedIn if you want to maybe just reach out to him. His name is Hugh Tyrrell from Green Edge.
It's Tyrell, Tyrell, right? I'm just putting it in the chat.
Green
That's
Edge,
really exciting.
Exactly.
That's great news. Because they obviously aren't recyclable, and I'd say the only solution that I know of is to do reusable, but I understand in an informal township it's difficult with washing and things like that. So that is really exciting.
And that pilot is very exciting. They actually had the project actually enticed they had like something like 120 mothers that would actually kind of get given bags, and then they would use the bags to collect the diapers, put them into the bins, and then they did a whole collection process. So now I think we're just waiting for the more formal results on the pilot. And then, but something is actually, which is exciting, is happening in that aspect.
That's such good news. Then there were two more comments. The one says, Emmy's asking, will you please share the details for Green Edge? We also have the same problems with diapers in Quebec. So I don't know, Berenice, are you able to just share the details on the chat, please, for everyone?
Yes. I'm going to get the website and just put it in there, because I know he hasn't quite fully updated the information yet until all the results were finalized. But it will.
The people who are interested could just reach out.
Exactly.
Exactly. Perfect. So then someone said, just a comment, separation at source is more suitable in a lot of areas. The reason why I say this is because mixing waste makes it more difficult to make or makes more work, which results in more waste ending up in landfills. Simpiwe, we completely agree with you. Separation at source is obviously the first prize. And we are working with municipalities to try and make sure that it happens more widely across South Africa. The city of Cape Town, for example, is doing a great job with separation at source projects. But it is also very challenging to do separation at source projects because you have to literally convert every person in every household. So that's why, starting at work or starting at school is also like a good option, because you can reach many people in one place and provide kind of less infrastructure. I know, for example, a lot of people want free clear bags and things like that, and that becomes a very, very big expense for a municipality to have to cover. So we completely agree with you. That really is first prize, and we really hope that South Africa can hopefully get there sooner rather than later. And then one more question from Levita, but quickly, Junaid, would you mind just putting the links to the buyback centers in the chat, please? Both of the links. Someone's asking for a buyback center in Limpopo. And then Levita said, do you collect all plastic, recyclable and unrecyclable? So Levita, we are not a collection company. There are also different ways to collect. There are, when you're asking if people collect everything, it's very unlikely that one person collects everything. Waste is usually collected by the municipality and gets taken to a landfill, whereas recyclables will be either collected by a municipal curbside collection project or collected by informal collectors or waste pickers in your area, or you can hire a company, an SMME like Andy's company, to actually come and collect from your home, or you can actually take your recyclables to a drop-off site. And I know, for example, like the city of Cape Town have lots of drop-off sites around Cape Town. I'm not sure where you are based, but the rest of the country has more challenges with drop-off sites. They haven't launched as many as of yet, but people can take, even if you're not wanting to make money from recyclables, you can still take your recyclables to a buyback center, and then unrecyclable material, unfortunately, would have to go in with the municipal waste. And we would encourage you to get in touch with and learn more about what is actually recyclable and not recyclable, so that you can make responsible choices at the shelf and choose products that are recyclable in your neighborhood, that are collected by collectors or by SMEs that are collecting from your home, and also by buying packaging that includes recycled content. It means that you are then supporting that whole chain. So when you buy a bottle, for example, that's made with recycled PET plastic, it means that you are creating further demand for that PET to get collected, to get recycled, to be made into new pellets, to go into a new bottle. So those are just some of the things that you can do kind of at the shelf. And that is the last question. Done. So I'm going to formally close off. I don't know if anyone else has any more comments. You're welcome. Oh, there's one more. I would like to know if there are any recycle collection programs coming soon for the coming festive season. Faldi, I think we can chat about this offline. We don't have any specific programs just for festive. Okay, I'm going to close off now. There's a whole lot of new questions coming in. We'll be here all day. But yeah, Moshimane, please contact info@petco.co.za. If anyone has further questions, you're welcome to email us. Junaid, thank you for replying, but thank you to 77 people that are left on this call. Please put any comments in. If you have any further comments, we'll leave it open for another 2 minutes or so, just to get your last comments or any feedback. We'd love to hear from you. And I hope that you all have a wonderful day. And thank you again to Berenice for your time. Thank you, Shane, for your time. Thank you, Junaid, for helping in the background. And our next session is on the 9th of November. I will put that link in the chat. Otherwise, if you're all here, I'm sure that you will get the notifications from our newsletter. And with that, goodbye.
You. And
everyone,
thank you, Cara. Thank you very much to Petco. Yes,
thank you. Thank you again.
Great. Thank you.
All right.
Bye.
Bye, Berenice. Cheers.